this series that become a seeker. So when we are a seeker, then 50% of the journey is already done. Mind, body, our attitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything is with us. So in the very first, we talked about if the mind lives in fourth subjective state. So we discussed about one-pointedness. But this one-pointedness of the mind is different than concentration of psychology. We say oscillation of attention and bring the mind back. That is how we focus. We have to make an effort. So in the second, we discovered, yes, Sarah, first time I see you. How are you? Second time. She remembers, she is good.
I'm good. Thank you.
She is good. So we become a human being. The human being means the intellect is alive. And the intellect, the mind follows the intellect. We also understand that good work is not enough. We say, I have been very kind to you and you have cheated me because you are so kind to me without knowing. That is why I cheated you. There is it. So, we need to understand that the good work alone is not enough. You go outside in a mall and you say, I'm a very good guy, I do lot of good works. Can you support me? Nobody is going to support you. It does not mean that we should not be doing the good work. But that alone is not enough in the journey of self-discovery. Do you remember we discussed about evolved, evolving, and to be evolved? So if you understand that the entire yoga Eastern wisdom is based on this principle. We also discussed about 4 connections, moving within and living within. And last week we understood the very basics of Eastern wisdom. I used the 2 words Mangala, Charan. Mangala, auspiciousness, Charan means feet. So the real meaning, walk the path rightly and properly, but keeping aside ego. That is the essence of Namaste. We do Namaste, and I forget myself, so it does not make any change. Now I have been doing Namaste to you for the last 3 years. And you have not responded me, so that is also not Namaste. You maintain your ego. I meet a lot of people, they have their different expressions. I said, okay, that is the way the life works. So now understand clearly, this mind has emotions, feelings, habits, and impulses. Before I begin with the new topic today, that is very important, it is known as the fourfold practices. So I'll just give the introduction and then we will pick up one practice every session so that the things becomes clear. And you will find that the life starts changing. Your behavior, your attitude, your personality, your responses to the thing starts changing every day. If that does not change, then you are not attending my lesson. Then who is responsible? I am responsible. because I am responsible for your life. You have to do nothing. So, mind, you understand the difference between the mind and the intellect. This mind has emotion, feeling, habits, impulses. When we succumb to our feeling, emotions like grief, pain, then we are guided by the mind. So when we are guided by the mind, the intellect is hiding behind. We cannot take a right decision. Take an example. You met with a unwanted incident and you are crying. How should I respond to you? So your mind expects, oh, please be sympathetic to me, hug me, pat me. How many times? Every time you get upset, I should hug and pat you. So mind is still expecting. That mind which is expecting things from outside will never change. Remember this. If the mind is stronger than the intellect, you are gone. Take an example, just a simple example. 100% intellect is in service at all time. You are a wise person. You are a seeker. 75% intellect is in service. Mind is 25%, makes you emotional. So what we were talking about, David, introduction to fourfold practices. It has been written, I would say, 6,000 years ago. So we started talking, mind has emotion, feeling, habits and impulses. If the mind is stronger than the intellect, then what happens? Mind is stronger than the intellect, then we are a gone case. So I was giving an example. If you put 100% intellect is in service, you see how much respect Eastern wisdom gives to the intellect. So first we respect the intellect and then we give direction to the intellect through these principles. That makes you a seeker. So 75% intellect is in service and the mind is 25%, makes you emotional. You have an obsession. 50-50, 50% intellect, 50% mind. Forgetfulness. Oh, you told me that I should not get emotional and habitual, but what should I do? 50-50. And when the 25% intellect is in service, you have a wandering mind. You are almost a non-seeker. According to our teachings, the mind imagines, tricks, distracts, reacts, angers, misleads, weakens you, goes for instant pleasure, leads to pain. So how should I understand in my daily life? The moment you have a pain, become alert. Allow the intellect to put the intellect into service. And the intellect always like to see what is truth, right and good in life. Keep focus, builds your strength, takes a journey to the happiness. Mind bluffs by going to what mind likes and pleasant for us. Intellect says, calm down. Where they both are living in you. They both are in you. Eastern wisdom respects intellect, but totally in a different direction. So we have understood with that reference the 4 connections in the previous session. And now is the time to understand what we say. Brief. I will give you a brief in this session of 4-fold practices. It means there are 4 groups of practices. So let me put it straight away that this fourfold practices contains 9 simple steps and practices, 3 hidden practices, and thousands of secondary practices that you are aware. So if I talk about the secondary practices, you know about asanas, pranayama, then mudra, then mantra, mala, law, thousands and thousands of practices. Primary practices are 9. Out of the 9, 3 are practices that pertains to intellect. If we don't use this intellect, you are doing a secondary practices of the asana, then what your mind says, do headstand pose for 1 hour. The blood will rush to the brain, and then you will be in meditation. How the blood has to do with the meditation, that we don't understand. So now let us pick up the first 3 hidden, you can say hidden practices. This is also a hidden practices when you are listening to me. This is what my master used to say. I learnt it long back. It took me many years. He used to say, no, listen to me. I said, no, he has a big ego. That's why he's saying that, listen to me. But gradually, I understood that what he is talking about, the principles. So every time you are listening, what happens? The intellect is triggered. Intellect says, oh, here is an option. Why I am doing like this? Let me change. So this why I say hidden practice, because it doesn't appear. Listening is not a practice. So the word is coined by our master, satsanga. Satsangatve nisasangatvam. A constant listening and learning of these principles expressed by the teacher in variety of ways or personalized helps our mind to move towards detachment. Say one principle. Your honey gets irritated all the time. It is his or her nature. Now you are listening to it. So what you have heard? That it is his or her problem. It is her and his level of mind. That is why he or she is reacting. You have heard it. It is digested. The new event comes. Mind says, okay, you are right, honey. I'm okay. You leave him or her. Continue to hesitate. You keep aside your ego. It's a very subtle format. Try to think it over and send me the feedback. Even you can ask the questions. I'll make it. So first thing, satsanga is very important until we reach to a certain stage where my mind cannot take over the intellect. The first hidden practice. Satsanga. That is known as the satsanga. Now the second practice, that your mind is now clear, that the person becomes angry or reacting because of him and her, not because of me. It is his and her way to respond to a situation. So why should I accept his or her reaction or anger? You might have seen a couple of sessions, people have reacted, and I said, okay, enjoy your life. So what happens? The most beautiful thing happens when you live into that state. The knowledge that is settled in the head goes down to your heart. It emotionally charges you. That is one way to say that you are living in a present moment. And then the heart, that you get a higher vision of your life, the highest vision of your life, my friend. That I have to evolve. I have found the clue. It gives you a tremendous power. So I'll be explaining. Today I'm just briefing all that. Now what you see, the knowledge is 100% clear. Now the intellect is ruling here. The intellect passes on the knowledge to the heart. And the heart will pass on the knowledge to the hands. Your karma, your action, your behavior, your attitude, your response to the world outside changes. First time you feel this is the power of the Eastern wisdom. So the three hidden practices are there. We will continue. So every entire journey of the Eastern wisdom is based on that. Intellect is 100% clear about the knowledge. Now I say close your eyes and you just look inside. So your mind looks inside. It does not wander outside. That is what it becomes, being a seeker. Now coming to the 6 practices. You should be very clear. Last session we did it, what we did, Mangalacharan and Namaste. So we keep aside our ego completely and we walk the path rightly and properly with a teacher. But again understand, the human teacher is a pointer. Simply a pointer. Nothing less, nothing more than that. So until the seeker perceives the teacher as a pointer, nothing happens. And it happens only when you start thinking. What does it mean? I just passed on the principle to you. So whenever you are free, just close your eyes and think, oh, let me see what principle, what was the principle. I have to learn, I have to listen. Make that principle your own by contemplation and thinking. So in the first 3 hidden practices, teacher plays not, it is an important role. Now come to the 3 knowledge practice. You can practice that inside your head. I want to know my real self. Yes. So I want to know my real self. At present, our mind has a mixed reality. What is that mixed reality? Mixed reality is that I am the body. But Eastern wisdom says I am the real self. So I have to separate this body in the mind through the power of discernment. So that is known as the first practice. We will deal with in detail. It is known as viveka, the discernment. You don't have the power of discernment, no practice of yoga, meditation, mindfulness is possible. Buddha said in first of the Eightfold Noble Path, where he said right knowledge. He starts with the right knowledge. So I have to separate right knowledge with my false notions that I have. And we have millions of false notions. Millions of false notions that we have accumulated in our life. You are doing meditation. You have a problem with the honey. Honey makes some noise. The mind goes there. Mind goes. Now I'm just giving a simple example. You are not fully settled. So if I separate that, what the honey has to do with my meditation, even if she or he did not make a noise intentionally, I have to do nothing. So I have to separate the false notion with the right notion. This is known as the discernment. And as you grow in the power of discernment, the second result is naturally the dispassion comes. Dispassion comes that you are not at all carried away by the mind. You are not ready to react, blame, and complain. So these two are knowledge practice. We will deal with it in detail, and then you will understand how powerful they are. So after that, there are 6 practices. They are known as the inner treasures, inner wealth of the intellect and the mind and the body. So the first treasure is peace. How to consciously enter into that state of relaxation and calmness. So now you understand that relaxation and calmness is the beginning of a meditation, but it is not what the meditation is. It's a byproduct of meditation. My master used to say, you are at the highest level of the peace. You have achieved the highest of meditation. You are at the middle level of the peace. The mind, you know how to move the mind within instantly and get away from the reaction. It may happen, casually, it's okay, but gradually you live into that state of wisdom. And you have a lower level of peace, then your peace and calmness is alternating. Sometimes you have pain, and then you join this session, you feel, oh, what a good teacher, what a good practice. But again you forget it, you again go back. So second treasure is known as Dhamma. What is that Dhamma? Dhamma literally means that your intellect has a power to withdraw the mind inside instantly. We will understand how to do that. So once we have been doing in different steps of the meditation, but now we will become aware. This is what we are doing, and this is how we are doing. So once you have the right knowledge, you have a clarity, you see that you live in the world, but the world does not live in you. The third, if I translate, it is known as uparati, but if I say, at present the mind is sitting over us. So uparati means the sitting over the mind, sitting above the mind. You see a person, the mind reacts, sit over the mind. Mind pacifies that reaction. You live into that state of the calmness. Is it possible? Yes, it is 100% possible. That makes you a perfect seeker. Now see, there are millions of impressions. You have been doing the practice. Stephen was telling me, we have been doing together, I think, for more than a year. But then he honestly confessed that, I wanted to explode. So even after doing regular practice, our past impressions that have been accumulated for over the years, that explodes. I know this is not right. I know this is not right, and still my mind takes over me. What should I do? That comes the fourth treasure. That fourth treasure is known as titiksha. Titiksha means endurance. Sometimes we see that mind is constantly troubling me, but I know how to live into the peace, so I do not allow it to be expressed outside by the practice of endurance. So it has nothing to do with the suppression. That also we will understand. And the fifth, once you do these 4 practices, what happens? Your mind develops a kind of a faith that there is definitely something which he is talking about, real self. So what happens? You develop a kind of a faith in yourself. And what was our first lesson in becoming a seeker? That it is one-pointedness. So by doing these 8 practices, I told you the 9 primary practices, out of which majority are to be done inside, based in the intellect. So when you reach there, you get one-pointedness state. And the moment you get a one-pointedness state, you become a seeker. And once you are a seeker, you cannot leave the practice. You may leave me. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. I have 100 teachers. I left many, and ultimately I stick to one. So because then what happens? There's some spark. That spark of awareness grows in you. And you are lying down, it will not leave you until the journey is complete. You have that, you have that trigger. You wake up in the morning, you have that trigger. You're talking, communicating to your boss or your friend, and you realize the mind is reacting, no, let me withdraw myself. So that awareness inside, that spark inside helps you every moment in your life. Then every problem becomes an opportunity in the life of a seeker. That is the power of these fourfold practices. So when you do all these fourfold practices, you find, yes, now I know what it means by becoming a seeker. And that is why I have chosen that topic. So remember, what do you remember? There are 3 hidden practices. There are 3 hidden practices, 9 primary practices, and then comes the secondary practices. Secondary practices includes, the outer practices that you are all aware. Now see the categorization. The primary practice, first I have to put my head into order. Get away with the mind which bluffs me, which trucks me, which makes me emotional, reactive, blaming, complaining. Then comes the 9 practices which takes over the mind. And then we take care of the secondary practices. Let us start our journey. Close your eyes. Close your eyes and mind is looking within. Mentally, I told you, mentally you are folding the hands in Namaste Mudra mentally. That becomes a higher practice. Normally we say, I'm doing it physically, I have done it, and the ego is very much associated with the body, so we get away with that. Mentally, you are folding the hands, the thumb is gently pressing the center of the rib cage. You feel it, you visualize it. The mind tricks by visualization, and we are tricking the mind by the same thing. Come on, I'm helping you. And then we look inside the center of the palm. We enter into that space, infinite space. And then we remind the mind. Mind does not remember. The intellect says, I understand. What I understand, there is a real self. And what the mind says, I have a lot of stress. What the real self says, no, I have understood. Real self is full of permanent peace and happiness. But mind says, I have a lot of pain. You see? I'm translating what we discussed today in the practice, my friends. So we remind the mind. Mind, do you know? Real self is self-existent, self-evident, self-luminous, of the nature of permanent happiness. So that is why we always begin with some kind of a mantra that leads to auspicious moment. Pick up only one thing. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shanti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah. O Goddess, you are seated in me as permanent peace. So when you are saying this, you are looking deep inside. That helps the mind to move within easily. Otherwise, the mind is already attached with a lot of things outside and you are pushing the mind. That is where the suppression and the reaction comes. Understand that minutely. If there is any power, if there is any goddess who is seated in me as a permanent peace, that is why I bow down to you, I bow down to you, I bow down. So why bowing down? Keeping aside our ego. You understand that process. That is why we are doing it. And with that state of auspiciousness and emptiness, it becomes easy to move into the second stage of being comfortable. Looking at the neck joint, being there, feeling sensation, comfort, and steadiness. And after that sensation, comfort, and steadiness, because the mind now has a tendency to go inside, it will not pick up any object. Even if it has picked up the objects, it can still introduce the infinite space in you. That is the power of Namaste and power of Mangalacharan. You simply listen to me based on these principles. You are already in the state of higher meditation. That is the beauty of the journey, if we follow these principles. So move the mind on the shoulder joints, being there, being comfortable, steady, sensation, space. What we are doing? We are educating the mind. Come on, live within. Moving the mind on the entire body, on all the joints of the body, from the top to the toes. Be there. Feel. What do you feel? Sensation, comfort, steadiness. Very good. Space. And now, being carefree. Now you see that this is all the knowledge practice. So when you experience this sensation, comfort, and steadiness in the joint, the mind starts moving within. And being carefree, that becomes the first primary practice out of the 9. That's Sama, the 9 treasures. We'll understand. So once you understand it clearly, you have the perfect knowledge, then it is easy to translate that into an experience. Anytime, anywhere. With eyes closed or open. I believe you understand what I'm saying. And then, being carefree. Being carefree, Any thought comes, not me and mine. Do you remember the salesman? Mine is a great salesman. It tries to seduce. Why? Mine bluffs. Why it bluffs? Mind perceives happiness is outside, peace is outside, in an object, in a person, in a tongue. It wants more to be happy. Are you aware? Anything more cannot make you happy. Intellect says, I'm already settled there and I have everything. I will get more. But why to be in a hurry? Thoughts goes away. Being carefree. You are into that state of being carefree, and then so once you have in the stage 1 auspicious moment, you entered into the auspicious moment, you had your namaste, that the mind has left the world, being into the space, keeping aside your ego. Because if you keep aside your ego, there is no question of any thought. Because when the thought enters, you say, I have this thought. So that I is before. So then in the stage 2, we again go a little deeper, being comfortable, being carefree, and then being natural. What is being natural? You are not the doer and the enjoyer. Ego is already kept aside. And then we can move into the stage 3. And the stage 3, we understand, if I want to be a seeker, I have to minimize the frequency of the first 3 states of the mind. What are the 3 states of the mind? The wandering, forgetfulness, and obsessed. So now see that knowledge is there already in the mind. So that knowledge, our master leads us that you can use the secondary practice, like breathing. You see, the secondary practice comes here. But if you do it in the beginning without understanding, then your mind goes back to the physiological, biochemical changes, neurophysiological. They are good, but they pertain to the science. It has nothing to do with us. As far as if we want to succeed in meditation. So looking at the breath, and again being aware of the space inside the heart, and start breathing quick, short, and gentle breathing from the ribs. So we started with the secondary practice. What will work to succeed in the secondary practice? Endurance. What is the endurance? 4th of the 9 inner treasures. So continue. Let us see. Playful, gentle breath. Expansion and contraction of the rib cage. Continue. Quick, short, gentle breath. I know you all have an endurance. That is the 4th of the 6 treasures. You see, when you understand that endurance is within me, the knowledge lives in the intellect and you are doing the practice, that makes you succeed. And stop there. Start breathing deep, silent, and slow in the stage 3. We are taking the help from the secondary practices to settle in the 6 inner treasures. So start breathing deep, silent, and slow. Your deep, silent, and slow is the car. The mind is the driver. As you inhale, move the mind inside the right arm from the shoulder to the fingertips, in the space inside, singing mentally Om Shanti. So when you're doing Om Shanti means what? You see, knowledge, 99% knowledge and 1% practice. That helps you to raise your awareness. That helps you, your mind to live within. So knowledge of Om Shanti. Om is the designator of my real self which is within me, and Shanti is the peace. Continue, my friend. My friends, deep silence, slow breathing. The mind is moving within, in the space inside. Om Shanti. So the time will come now inside the left arm, never ever think that you have joined for the first time and you cannot succeed. Meditation is beyond time and the space. That is why I see a lot of people, even in the first session, they go very deep. Mind is moving inside the left arm, but the breath going in and coming out in the space, saying Om Shanti mentally. When you're doing Om Shanti mentally, it prevents the influx of the thoughts also. Now inside the right leg, as you inhale, move the mind inside the right leg from the right side of the waist in the space inside, singing Om Shanti, reaching to the toes while exhaling. Quality of the breath should be deep, silent, and slow. Why? To prevent the mind to get carried away by any thought. Oh, is that possible? Do this and see. Now inside the left leg, knowledge 90% means understanding. And with that understanding, you are acting on the breath and the mind. Now inside the spine, from the crown of the head to the tailbone, and from the tailbone to the crown of the head, in the space inside. Om Shanti. Who has organized all the steps? Your intellect. And leave that deep silence, slow breathing. Check the flow of the nostrils at the tip of the nose. You need not to worry, even if they do not have an equal flow. Obviously, if it has an equal flow, you can experience the mind is living within constantly. It has no chance to move out until you say it. And once that happens, you are deep inside the heart, in the infinite space. Whether you say space, darkness, blankness, it doesn't matter. So, in that space, locus. How do you find the locus? Pick up any point in the space. Mind is not habitual because it wants to see some object, feel some object, imagine some object, and that's where the problem starts. So you ask the mind to look at any point in the space and drop Shantoham mentally. Shantoham mentally means I am the peace. And what is the knowledge associated with it? Do you know that? Do you remember? Our master says that the shape and the size of the peace is a good space. What is good space? There is only a space all around, inside and outside, there is nothing. Can that be an objectless state? Let us see. So again, you have said so. Inside the heart, that is your first milestone. Then move the mind deeper inside. You will find that you can move. Find the second point. Be aware. Shantoham. I'm the peace. Take your own time. Take your own pace. Because every individual mind responds differently. And in the last practice session, we understand when the mind says, now I cannot move further, mind merges into the real self. Mind recognizes all the thoughts and contents of the mind. When the mind already merges into the real self, it is the emptiness of the mind. That is the state of the mindfulness. You have to understand that way. Not try to throw away all the thoughts of the mind outside. Not possible. It has never been possible. Shantoham. Beauty. I can see the beauty of this journey, everyone. From outside, it is totally, you all have become a statue. But it is not by force, you earned it. Earning by knowledge, by understanding, by practice. I'm going to be silent in future sessions for a longer period so that you check, you understand, you deepen. I'll continue to increase the duration of non-speaking so that you live within yourself and you have a deeper experience. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your awareness on the right hand, your awareness on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside, know your experiences, bring the hands down. Look at the calmness and the stillness of the Terry. And when she can do it, why can't we? How are you, Sarah?
I feel lighthearted and very settled.
Very settled. Good. Think of it when you are settled 24/7, every day, every week, every month. That is one way to put it rightly. How are you, David?
It was very good. I actually got interrupted in the beginning there, and then I just said to myself, I'm going to make this an amazing experience. And I was very deep. I really enjoyed the silence because I found that just had me like plunge down deeper into space.
Yes. That is, you express the same thing which I said when the mind merges, plunged. You dropped. Beautiful. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good. Very peaceful. I found the meditation interesting from an experience standpoint because I think I've explained this a little bit before, but I've gotten more clarity around it. Is that I feel I notice the two spaces within myself during meditation. So as I close my eyes, I immediately find myself heading towards my heart center. And in order for me to actually listen to you, I have to be up here because I lose it in here. And so the beginning of the meditation was this battle between me trying to listen to you and where I naturally wanted to go. And then as you went deep, the heat that I felt during the breathing, I felt I could do it when I was concentrating up here. And
You're
then
right.
I would lose the breathing cadence because I was being drawn down here. And that's where the realization came to me. And then as we're getting now with a longer silence, I was just in this deep space within myself.
Beautiful, beautiful, Stephen. We will understand that how to balance this too. He is right that it becomes challenging to continue doing any active step if I'm not here. But ultimately I have to descend down here. So all these steps are meant for that. It will bring more clarity. How are you? Terry, how are you?
Well, I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. I could see your smile tells me the story. That is good. Don't say. Live with it. Live in that moment. How are you, Sam?
I'm fantastic. I think the first thing that I resonated with the lesson was I don't want to misspeak what the term is, but just the ability to have my intellect bring my mind within,
Yes,
guide
right.
it back. It's happening. I find it happening all throughout my day, and so practicing it throughout the day also helps
Beautiful.
here.
Yes,
um,
yes, yes.
and I would say I found this more of a connectedness today between my mind and where, the car, highway, doing the nyasa, and then the shanto hum. I didn't even realize I was breathing, honestly. I just felt myself dropping down, coming back up, and similarly, when you're down here, you can't really hear what's going on. When you come back up, I hear a little bit of what you were saying, but it was very, very peaceful and quiet and pleasant.
You see, what a beautiful way to explain it. You see that? You see the mind and intellect. I was just scratching while talking to you, and David just scratched his shoulder. This is mind. Look at it. Then intellect. Every moment there is a movement. The mind is impulsive, habitual, bluffs and tracks, and the intellect, oh, what the hell you are doing? Calm down. Don't do anything until the session is over. You see the intellect in the mind at every moment. You see, you're moving your fingers. Intellect has no clue. Intellect has no clue. So when this intellect becomes aware, intellect makes the mind aware, what the hell you are doing? Body comes down. Mind withdraws itself. So it becomes just in a flash, it happens. So we are moving ahead. How are you, Christina?
That was fun doing that in the car. I had some distractions, but it was easy for me to be completely with you throughout it, except I did have a sharp pain on my back, but like a something stung me, and I knew that was just my thought.
Yes.
That something flew in my car and stung me, and I let it go, but then I need to work on it, because I don't know if you saw me, and I had to stop, and
Yes,
I smacked
yes.
myself. So that's something I need to work on. So I'm stuck on that
Beautiful.
I got out of it.
You recognize, that is also a sign of progress. So when you recognize where the false notion takes over me, you know it is not going to take over next time. So a small step is the bigger step. How are you, Barbara?
I feel very, very peaceful. At one point during the meditation, I felt as though I was falling asleep. And then I saw this very bright light, and it startled me.
Yes.
And after that, I just felt very, very peaceful.
Yes. This is how we get rid of this laziness and the sleepiness in the meditation. This is what happens. One example, one of many ways. Beautiful. How are you, Ashok?
Sir, namaste.
Namaste.
It is good and peaceful today. More peace today.
More, yes. You see that? If you continue to attend, I give peace in a monthly installment. Very good. Very good. How are you, Sangeeta?
सर बहुत पीसफुल था, और जब सर शांतो हम कह रहे थे कि ड्रॉप करो, तो ऐसे लग रहा था कि कुछ अंदर गिर रहा है और वो पूरी बॉडी में फैल रहा है, बहुत पीस आ रहा था.
Yes, normally our master, great master Arvindo explains this experience, what Sangeeta is saying, that the time comes when you will start feeling as if the fluid mass of peace and calmness and the light starts descending down from the top of the head into the body, and it spreads. So it is just an indication. It does not mean that I must have this experience. So don't start running with these things. That's why I don't talk too much about this. So I share I ask you to share your experiences. Very good. Yes, Sunita, how are you? Good music.
सर अच्छी हो लेकिन सर एक्टिंग दिया चलिए समझ में आया टाइम नहीं दे रहा मेरा कुछ
हाँ नहीं, वो दोबारा इसको सुनना और समझना. अरे तुम्हारे गुरुजी ने बता, साधन चतुष्टय हम बताते हैं. बिना साधन चतुष्टय की साधना नहीं होती. So listen to it and understand it again. Is there any question? Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.
Thank you, Girish.
Thank you.
थैंक यू
Thank you.
नमस्ते
Namaste.